Hello and welcome to Talking Good Game. We just finished West Ham United 2, Brighton, Hove and Albion 2 in the first game of 2019 for both clubs. We're here to discuss the highlights, and there's plenty of them to get through. Gonzo, the first half really we started slow again. It was all Brighton for the first good 15-20 minutes. We couldn't get our own half at one point.
It was awful. It was really, really bad, lackluster stuff. But it was no surprise, really, when you looked at the front line. And I know, obviously, later on in the game, Arnautovic would go on to show some pace. But you looked at it, and Anderson was very deep. Snodgrass was probably the most advanced of the wingers. And you had Andy Carroll and Arnautovic up front. Not only was it not working, it was probably almost like the dream attack as far as Brighton were concerned. Those lovely counter-attacking, quick pace goals that we're used to seeing under Pellegrini, there's no way we could have scored one of those. So I found it very stagnant, very, very stagnant. No movement, totally predictable. And old Duncan, Duffy, or whatever their names are, we're lapping it up, you know?
Charlie, we sort of discussed about what went wrong for West Ham in the reverse fixture when Brighton beat us 1-0. The first 45 minutes was almost a carbon copy, really.
Yeah, and it was almost the same as it was against Burnley as well. They just had our number. And what frustrates me in those situations is I like watching us have possession football. I like watching us pass it around. But the problem is they sit deep and we pass it around in front of them. There's no drive, there's no incisive passes, there's no incisive runs either. If you watch Man City, and obviously comparing us to Man City is not fair in any way, shape or form, but the reason why they can pass it around us like that is because people, when they're not on the ball, are moving. They're moving into dangerous positions. They're putting the opposition in uncomfortable positions. And we don't do that. We just sort of pass around and hope that a team as well drilled as a Chris Hughton Brighton or a Sean Dyche Burnley are going to move out of position. And that's just not a thing they're going to do. And so we just aimlessly pass it around. And at that point, I was very concerned that we were going to go the exact same way we did against them.
I don't even think we were passing about, to be honest, in the first half. I don't think we could string 3-4 passes together, regardless where it was in the pitch. I thought we seemed a bit nervous for some reason. Every time we got the ball, we seemed to take a couple of touches, and that didn't work. It was kick it long and hope it sticks to Carroll a little bit. You know, it was 10 minutes into the game. You had Declan Rice screaming at everyone, telling them all to calm down and just take their time a little bit. And it took 10 minutes. Brighton tried to get under our skin in the first 45 minutes. Now, I don't want to talk about the official too much, but he allowed them to get under their skin. But they used that to their advantage as much as possible. They worked out pretty quickly. They could get away with a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And they continued to do it. And our players, Snodgrass and Carroll in particular, were reacting to it. And they were the ones thumping the ground and screaming at the referee. And Brighton players must have been looking at them thinking, well, we've just won the mental war on the pitch anyway, because you have just lost your heads a little bit. Our composure was non-existent in the first half. You know, Anderson, we all know Anderson likes to come inside, and there was just no space for him to do that proper. And Stevens had that area of the field completely packed out. There was no room for him to come in, and we were just devoid of ideas in the first 45 minutes. Just quickly, Charlie Arnautovic went down around about the 40th minute. Went down under a loose dunk, sort of. I wouldn't call it a challenge. He went up behind him, and there was some contact. Is that a penalty for you?
I think it is. I think it would have been soft, but I don't think Arnautovic can do anything else in that situation. He's sort of already hunched over, and the defender is basically not pushing him without pushing him. His presence is enough to where Arnautovic can't stand up, can't rear up and actually do anything with the ball. So for me, in that instance, it is a penalty, although I can't exactly blame him for not giving it, because it would have been very, very soft.
Well, we went in 0-0 at half-time, and then the first change came. Off went Andy Carroll with a gash above his eye, and on came Lucas Perez. No, honestly, Lucas Perez did come on. I promise you, Lucas Perez came onto the pitch. 55 minutes still going, so 10 minutes after the second half, it sort of continued from the first half, a little bit sloppy, a little bit, you have a little goal, we have a little goal. And then set pieces decides to rock up. First one comes in, Fabianski gets a punch to it, bounces down to Stevens, half volleys into the back of net, 1-0 Brighton.
Yeah, well, yeah, as you say, Andy Carroll went off a gash, and Flaming Perez was gash, wasn't he? Do you know what I mean? Just absolutely terrible. Anyway, he's going to become my Chiate. You know, like you were Chiate. I don't want to go on about it, but anyway, absolutely awful. What does he do? I'm just repeating myself. You can rewind to the Burnley one. Yeah, he punched it out, Fabianski, didn't he? He's punched. So I don't want to criticise him too much. He's punched so well this season, and normally he gets it right. He punched it to the geezer, and actually the fella did a reasonable job of controlling. It was a sort of half volley, wasn't it? Steered it quite well, but yeah, just more of the same, isn't it? We were just really, really struggling. Do we concede as many where if and when Balbuena comes in? It can't be. I know Ogbonna wasn't involved in that particular incident per se, but is it any coincidence that he comes back in and that happens and the whole defence, including Fabianski, become more nervous? I'll tell you what, I did think when they scored, they didn't deserve to be in the lead. I mean, nobody deserved to be winning. You know, if anything, both teams deserved -3 points for their performance up to that, because Brighton were awful and so were we. But yeah, the Brighton geezer did well to steer it into the bottom corner.
Charlie, it was just 2 minutes later. 2 minutes then, there was another corner from the same side of the pitch. Identical corner in all honesty. The difference was Fabianski didn't come and punch this one. So instead of getting punched, it bounced in the 6-yard box and went to the back post where Shane Duffy sort of bellied it down and volleyed it in, and Diop stood waving about for a handball.
Yeah, and Duffy does really well actually to improvise it into the net somehow. He does a very good job for a centre-back to do that. And Diop definitely should have done better. I think he has an opportunity. He has maybe 2 opportunities there, and you'd expect someone. Sometimes he does these things where it's like last-ditch, incredible, like split-second decision, and I'm like, Jesus, how the hell has he done that? And there, he had the time to like do anything with it, just to move in front of it if necessary, but he didn't really do anything, and it's a big mistake from him. And it's frustrating how easily we gave away both corners as well. We just sort of stood and watched them pass through us with no real accuracy, with no real zest, and yet it happens. And corners are so basic, and it shows that if you train a little bit for corners, you're probably going to get goals from it, and that's something we don't do. We're terrible at them, and yet we come up a side who are half decent, we concede 2 in 2 minutes. It's incredibly disappointing, and we should have done better for both, I feel.
Yeah, I think the frustrating thing for me is we had warnings in the first half from corners. Their corners in the first half were causing us a reasonable amount of trouble. And it felt like we ignored them a little bit. All their corners in the first half kept going to the back post. Duffy kept going there in the first half, and you won one at one point. That should have been a warning to Diop that your man is going to go to the back post for every single corner. And it just feels like for the second goal, he ignored that. Because you can tell when the ball bounces, Diop doesn't really know where Duffy is, and Duffy is just standing right behind him waiting for it. And the second goal comes because of the first one. If the first one never happened, Fabianski would have punched the second one. I'm pretty convinced of it. But because the first one happened, Fabianski doesn't leave his line this time. He just leaves it. The problem is, so now the ball should never bounce in a 6-yarder from a corner. Absolutely no way should that ball be bouncing. Someone is clearly at fault. And Gonzo mentioned Balbuena, and I do wonder we're missing him from just organization. Like if he's the one that usually marshals the back four, instead of having a leader in there, we've now got 4 soldiers, but there's no one in charge of them, and they're all just sort of looking, waiting for someone to take control. But then the game-changing moment came, and it'll be interesting to find. And I'm going to ask you, you have to be honest here, if you at the time you did think this was going to be a game-changing moment, because on came Martin Noble and Michael Antonio, and they came on in replace of Snodgrass and Obiang. Gonzo, it didn't take them long, but 65 minutes, Martin Noble, long ball over the top for Arnautovic, who does well, holds his man off and pops into the back of the net, 2-1, and suddenly there's a spark of life in West Ham.
Yeah, and it was great. It was a great ball from Noble. It came on, changed the game, as did Antonio. They had fantastic substitutions. Did I expect them to change it? Well, I in all honesty, if I'm being honest, I looked and I saw Nasri there, and Nasri started to put his jacket back on, so he looked disappointed. I thought, well, you know, what's going on here? I expected Antonio to have an impact. I must say, I thought he was man of the match in the last game, and nothing he did surprised me today. Noble coming on. It's not that I didn't think a midfielder needed to take control of the game, because I do. I think we got big issues in midfield, and this, make no mistake about it, I'm not punching the air for joy today. I think we've still got problems in defence. Still think we've got problems in central midfield. But what it did show was that whether it's Mark Noble or anyone else, it just shows when you get somebody that can have a bit of control in that central midfield area, put his foot on the ball, create a bit of movement, just do something different. What a difference it makes. And the problem really is within that is that nobody Pellegrini wants to play a certain way, and that team he put out in the first half is just not able to play in the way that Pellegrini wants to. There's just not enough technical players on the pitch. I know Anderson was getting a lot of stick, and he was woefully poor in the first half. But players like that need to play with other skillful players where, you know, when he passes it and goes, someone needs to give it. And you know, everyone was just passing, if at all, and standing still. Noble brought a little bit of quality into central midfield, got things moving again, and Arnautovic took it well, but it was exactly what Arnautovic tried to do when he should have won the penalty in the first half. He got his body between the ball, and he finished it well, used his strength, and he was stronger than the centre back. And yeah, I mean, we were all thinking, come on, when that was happening.
Charlie, the second goal, Mark Noble again involved. This time spares out to Antonio on the right, who beats his man well. It goes down to the byline. The ball sort of 80% goes over the line. Unlucky, 20% of it doesn't. Cuts it back to Arnautovic, and it's just sort of a simple finish in the end. But we sort of made it look easy, that second goal. We made it look easy when we can show us what happens when you can string a couple of passes together, have a little bit of directness about it, a little bit of pace and something different. You can do stuff.
It's almost like it is easy. It's almost like if you're actually getting behind the opposition, you might actually do something. It's mad how that works, isn't it? I think when you said about the two coming on, I didn't think Noble was going to change the game, not because he was a bad player or I think he's bad. I just felt that we needed to change formation and that it was a like-for-like substitution. Whereas with Antonio, I had mild hope, which is weird for me to say, but it's more because he's so ignorant and so just bull-headed in what he wants to do, in that he will ignore all tactical nous and just go for it. And that's something I think we felt we missed. We needed someone to make those runs in behind. And Noble brought that, what you were talking about the nervousness. He came on as if he was the most confident player on the pitch. He had that composure to pick out both passes absolutely brilliantly. Like, let's make no mistake, the first one for Arnautovic is good, but the second one for Antonio is just as good. To play behind like that is what was necessary and what was needed. And Antonio deserves a lot of credit, because let's be real, I give him as much stick as anyone else. I give him more than probably most do, but he did brilliantly there. And I think you say 80%, it was probably 99%, but that was the sort of luck we needed to go our way to make something happen in this game, because there was that just turgid nervousness about the team.
I think I'm pleased for Antonio, actually, because I thought Pellegrini made a mistake leaving him out tonight. Whether he was rested or dropped, it doesn't matter. He made a mistake. He shouldn't have been either, in my opinion. So for Antonio to come on, and it always proved Pellegrini wrong a little bit immediately, I'm delighted for him. He deserves that assist. I wish he almost scored the goal in the end, and that one when he went through defenders and took the shot with his left. I wish he scored that, because he deserves it recently. So I was pleased to see him come on. I'm not going to lie, when Noble come on, I thought, oh no, like I actually want to see Nasri or Diangana, one of the two, someone to give us something in the final third, because I thought that's what we were lacking a little bit. So when Noble come on, I thought, I'm not sure about this, but credit to Pellegrini, Noble, it was a match-winning substitution. He was the linchpin in both goals. That pass for the first goal is so easy to look at and go, oh yeah, nice one, Noble. But actually, that was De Bruyne or something. Sky Sports News will be showing it tomorrow, and they'll be showing it the next day as well. Look at this pass from De Bruyne for Aguero, etc. It really was inch perfect. And Arnautovic has sort of been waiting for that pass all game from various players, and it's just not happened. No one's even tried to give him that type of pass all game, and he finally gets one from the guy that's come off the bench. But what I will say, I think it actually perhaps shows Pellegrini was right to drop Noble at the start of the game, because that was a really motivated and different Mark Noble come on, because he doesn't always do those passes. Let's not make on Mark Noble comes on and tries pulling these 40-yard over the top balls off every 10 minutes in a game, because he doesn't always do that. He can sometimes go 90 minutes without trying one of them, but he's come on with a point to prove, with his space gone. He's got to earn his space back, and he's done that. He's achieved that today, and he was fantastic for both goals. Like Charlie said, he added the composure, that little bit of pass quality that we were missing, and he gets a lot of stick, Noble. We happy to criticise him, but I don't think we're nearly as bad as social media when it comes to Noble, and it's good. It's good. If there's someone I want to see play well, it is Mark. It is, because I do think for some reason he has to give an 11 out of 10 in order to get credit, whereas some other players like Anderson might only have to give a 7 out of 10 in order to get the relevant praise. God's a full-time whistle win. There wasn't much chances for either team really after that. Finished 2-2. Are you a happy Hammer, a pissed off Hammer, a frustrated Hammer?
No, I'm not happy. I'm not pissed off either. Yeah, I don't know. We've got a draw. I think, taken into the context of how many injuries we've got, and I do take that into context today, because there's just no way he's playing that team. there's just no way. We finished up and we were playing with 10 men for that second half. We really, really were. And because of that, I knew in those five, I looked at it on 85 minutes, but we won't get the other goal that we need to get because there's just nothing else happening. We literally were playing with a spare man. And if Pellegrini wants to play with two up front, either of those two can't be Perez or Carroll. They just can't. I mean, Chicharito and Arnautovic work, it really does. And Antonio and one of the others works. But if he can't do that, then he's got to go to three in midfield. But I understand he just doesn't have the numbers at the moment. Let's be fair, you look at that today, Yarmolenko would have been involved. He just would have been. Wilshere probably would have been involved. Lanzini definitely would have been involved. Balbuena, we really miss him. There's just so many players out the squad at the moment are injured. And I just think we were really lucky to play those teams that we beat when we did, to get those wins on the board. We're a mid-table team, and when we got our best players, I think we can be a little bit better. But I look at the football we was trying to play. I looked at Andy Carroll on the pitch. I looked at Perez, coming on, and I looked at the midfield as well with Obiang in there, because you've got to have one stopper in midfield, and Declan Rice is that guy. But you need someone else who's going to carry the ball and be technically good, and then give it. And you know what, Snodgrass worked really hard today, but again, he wasn't the best technically. We had one player trying to put his foot on the ball, and he was failing. And that's Anderson, obviously. And when that happens, it just fails, and you just can't play. This system, it's just crazy. We had a couple of really big lumps up front. I just didn't think we knew what we were doing. So I'm not happy, because I think there's a lot of things to address. But I just think we're gonna have to wait until people get back to fitness. But sorry, I know I've been talking a long time, but I don't believe this thing that he's not going to sell anyone in January. I really do think he's going to try and shuffle the deck.
Charlie, what about yourself? What's your thoughts on the game? Finished 2-2. I mean, is that a point gained, or is it 2 dropped? Are you frustrated, or a bit like Gonzo?
It's frustrated because when we actually went for it and started actually trying to take the game to them, we got 2 goals in very, very quick succession. And I felt like I did against Burnley and against other teams this season, where I felt like if we had been a bit more like that throughout the entire game, we could quite easily come away with that. And the performances where we have done that, we've blown teams away at times. And it's frustrating to see, because we have the ability there. Even the players today, like, we have this ridiculous injury crisis going on right now, but the players on the pitch are good enough to do that. Let's not beat around the bush. The players on the pitch today were good enough to put Brighton to the sword in that first half if they played like we did in that second period. But they just don't. There's this credit to Pellegrini in a sense, because I would have changed formation at 2 different stages during that game. I would have done it at half-time, and when those second 2 substitutions came on, I would have done it then as well. But he stuck to his guns, and it's worked out for him quite well. But I feel like there's almost... I think we do have the players in the squad right now to have played 3 in midfield. I can see Snodgrass fitting in and putting Dian Garner out on the wing. We've got Nasri involved, even though he's probably not match fit, but he exists. We've got players in and around the team who could change that formation, but he stuck to his guns, which is something I wouldn't have done. So I guess fair play to him, but it's really frustrating to see a group of players who are technically able, willingly able to do it, but just aren't doing it for some reason. And it's letting teams just get away with almost murder. It's so simple for them against us at times.
I think you're starting to see the fact that we have a lot of inconsistent players in our team. There's a lot of players with talent, but they're just inconsistent. We've seen the other side of the inconsistent Anderson today. We saw one glimmer of quality from him at the end of the first half when he ran past a few players. He absolutely sold someone out on the edge of the box when he looked to do something with his right foot and quickly took on his left and had that shot, just went past the post. Now, if that had gone on, we'd all be sitting here saying, that's the £40 million Anderson, just that one goal. But it didn't. So we're going to sit here and say, well, that's the £20 million Anderson that turned up today, because his quality didn't quite come off. Some of his set pieces were a little bit lacking, if you like, and it's nothing more frustrating than seeing us have a few big players in the box and nothing coming off. I thought Obiang, we saw him play very well against Southampton. Now we've seen him play not so well, in my opinion. We've seen the inconsistent side of Obiang again now. And that's just something we're going to have to accept as West Ham fans. We're not top 6 team, we're a mid-table team, and we're seeing the mid-table consistency now. The results are letting themselves out. If you said to me 2 months ago, over the festive period, you play Burnley away, Southampton away, and Brighton at home, you get 4 points, I would say that's probably fair for West Ham. It's probably a fair point haul for West Ham. But afterwards you do think, well, actually we've wasted a couple of opportunities here a little bit now, because we got the 3 points in the first game, so the next two, surely you can get 2 points between them, but we can't. I think who comes under there, I don't know, whether it's Pellegrini or the players or a bit of both, I'm not sure, but they are lucky we went from 2-0 down to 2-2 and not 2-0 up to 2-2, because this review in the feeling would be a hell of a lot different. We'd be a bit pissed off and angrier, a bit like Brighton fans probably are tonight, because when you're 2-0 up in the Premier League, especially away from home, you should be able to see out a game. You should have it in you to be disciplined and organised and know what to do to keep them out, especially when you're up against us who, you know, the keeper Button didn't really have anything to do until we made it 1-0. I don't think he had a save to make. And then suddenly, bang, 1-0, bang, 2-0. And Houghton's probably wondering, how the hell did that just happen? And Martin Noble's wandering around midfield like fucking Andrea Pirlo all of a sudden. He's thinking, who's that geezer over there? Sign him in January already. But it's just... It's an opportunity wasted tonight, just like it was against Burnley. It's an opportunity wasted. I just think the strikers were the wrong way around. I think this was the type of game actually could bring Andy Carroll onto the pitch for, but the problem was we were bringing him off the pitch because it wasn't working in the first half. He was working hard and putting himself about, but I think we've almost got a bit like what we used to do under Moyes, Bilic and Allardyce. We used to try and play away, and then Andy Carroll would come on the pitch and he would just change like that. And no matter who the manager is, he just did it. I feel like that's starting to creep in a little bit more, that when Carroll's on the pitch, you just tend to go a bit more direct. And I don't mind mixing it up, but it just seems a bit easy. It seems to give the players an out, rather than trying to find a 10-yard pass and play the little triangles. Actually, just go a bit long and get it up to. But there's one player in particular who I think's maybe a bit responsible for this, but he's getting off with that a bit. But we'll come on to that in a second. Gonzo, individual performance time. Take your pick, praise, criticise, you choose.
I just thought we were just lacking. I don't want to blame players too much. There's just some that are just not. There's some that are not good enough, and there are some that need to be playing amongst better players. After the first half, obviously we do these videos. I sit there at half time, make me a cup of tea, and I think, Gio's going to ask for a man of the match. And at that point, I said, there's not going to be one. There won't be a man in the match today. If it carries on like this, I'll say no one, because the man in the match is an award, and nobody was deserving of an award at that point. Turns out we dug ourselves out, and obviously there's 2 or 3 candidates, which are, for me, Arnautovic, obviously, Antonio and Noble, because those two changed the game. Zabaleta wasn't atrocious, but it's just really frustrating. I don't know, I just feel a little bit numb after that. There's clearly some players, as I say, that need better players playing alongside them. And I do think that Diop is one. He needs his partner there, certainly. I think Cresswell tried his hardest, but Anderson was just not firing today. And the thing about Anderson, and I do sort of get it, is he cost 40 million. If he did it every game, it'd be like Coutinho was last season. It'd be 150 million. And it's like I said in the forum in the week, well, you know what? Players like that don't sign for West Ham. We got Di Canio because he was mad. Okay, and because he'd been serving a ban as well, you know, because he'd pushed the referee over, and he was mad. Didn't play in away games and all that sort of stuff, but he was brilliant. So we have to get players who have a little bit of genius. Payet was, you know, and blah, 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 blah. So I understand that. I understand what we've got with them, but I just feel that you need a little bit more technique. For Snodgrass, his deficiencies start to show when there's not more quality in and around him. He then just becomes industrious. If he hasn't got players that can play 1-2s around him, then really, I know he had a shot today, he doesn't get into the positions where he can finish those lovely shots, of which we've seen a couple of them as well. Rice, he does the stopping, but he needs somebody else. I mean, he tried his hardest today, was quite unlucky with that shot, actually, as well. Arnie, I've got to say, Arnie turned it on when he wanted to, and I don't think he was asked in that first half. I was wondering what was going on with there, and I've got to be honest with you, I was going to come on here and I was going to lay into him. He got 2 goals, and things turned around. So, yeah, I think as a summary, mate, that'll probably do in terms of the players.
Charlie, what about yourself?
I think with Arnautovic, it's just less of he turns it on when he wants it to, and more that the defenders turned him off. Him and Snodgrass in particular in that first half really got to. They annoyed the hell out of them both, and they were both completely nullified because of it. Lots of arms throwing in the air, lots of huffing and puffing as if nothing was coming off of them, and that is true. But what we saw in the second half was the exact opposite of that with Arnautovic, which what we've seen under David Moyes and other people is you get one or the other. You get a guy who's just going to sort of kick up a fuss and moan about it not going his way, or someone who just won't take no for an answer. In the second half, we saw that. We saw him not taking no for an answer. But it pisses me off when I see someone like that, because you know they can do it. And the fact that a defender's pushing to them, getting to them, annoying them, just throws them completely off the game. And when they are as critical to playing the way we were playing as Arnautovic was in the first half, given he's playing Randy Carroll, he's the guy who's going to be the creative out of the two strikers. It's incredibly, incredibly annoying to see. When it comes to praise, I think really, apart from Noble and Antonio, who I think deserve both a lot of credit to come onto that game and change it, and I do think it was those two players who came on with a fresh mindset and a fresh will and determination. I think they did change it. Rice, again, just has a good game. Not outstanding, but he does well. There was no massive, like, incredible passes from him, but again, that's not his job. He's steady and he is consistent and he is reliable in that position, and it's something we lack a lot and we need. But critical, there's a lot of people. I think Diop had a bad game. I think Ogbonna had a bad game. I don't know. It's just frustrating. It's frustrating. But praise, I'll just stick with praise, and I'll say that Rice and strangely for me, Antonio, I think he played well and I think he was necessary.
I think Fabianski was unlucky in the first half. He came for a really long high ball, didn't he? And he cleared into Zabaleta. I think that's affected him for both of their goals, actually. I think maybe he's not wounded or winded or anything, but I think maybe it's knocked him a little bit. I don't know. But I just think there was something funny about the second goal that Fabianski didn't come for it. I think there's a reason for that. But immediately after he caught that high one, he caught another high one in the box straight away. So it was good to see that it didn't knock him. But that type of thing on a keeper especially does sort of give you jitters, if you like. I thought Zabaleta, Creswell and Rice, I think, had solid games. Nothing 8 out of 10 or spectacular, but nothing awful. Didn't make a mistake, any of them. I thought Diop was a little bit green today, if that makes sense. I think we've noticed that he's now got, well, he does still have an experienced defender next to him, but he doesn't have a useful experienced defender next to him. And we're starting to notice that. If you look at the stats, Balbuena actually does better than Diop in the stats for clearances, etc. Balbuena is actually really much more involved than Diop is, but Diop makes the match of the day tackle, if you like. He's the one that does a 10-yard sprint and bang, tackle one-on-one and stuff. Balbuena doesn't really do that. Ogbonna, Christ almighty, I'm sorry, but he's dreadful. And at one point, he was tracking March from the touchline all the way over the 18-yarder, 20 yards out. He's fine. He's just tracking him. It was fine. Suddenly, Ogbonna decides to stop. The geezer has a free shot. Ogbonna literally stopped and started reversing. I know he's out of position. Mate, you've been out of position since you started tracking him. He's a right winger. You're the left centre-back. You were at this position to start. Rice is covering your arse. Like, Rice is filled in, and Rice is in the back four covering Ogbonna's arse because he's so far out of position. But for some reason, halfway through being out of position, Ogbonna stops and thinks, actually, despite the fact the guy I'm tracking got the ball, I'm going to go back into position now. And the guy has a free shot. It's just madness. The guy's supposed to be, how old is he? 30 or something? He's got international caps for Italy, of all countries, for God's sake. A country which is known for defending. This guy's got game time for Italy. Juventus as well. I couldn't think of two teams more defensively solid that you could play for, and this guy's got appearances for them. Jesus, man, watch it. I expect better from an 18-year-old kid than what I've seen from Ogbonna there. I just couldn't believe my eyes after what I'd seen. But he's just, I'm sorry, but he just gives me jitters. The only time I like him is when we've got a corner, and I think, actually, now he might do something. I'd actually rather see Ogbonna up front than centre-back against Birmingham if possible, because he might actually contribute something. I just don't understand it. I keep seeing him linked to moves away to Italy and stuff, and every time I see it, I cross my fingers and think, oh, please, God, please sell him. I don't even mind who we get in. Hussalo special, roll the dice, because this, I don't know. But into midfield, Obiang was, I don't think he did anything wrong, but the problem is he didn't do anything right either, if that makes sense. Like, it's fair enough doing nothing wrong, but you're not going to contribute anything. And then up front, Arnautovic, I get what Charlie's saying, but I actually think Brighton did the wrong thing winding Arnautovic up, because you can do the right thing winding Carroll up, because you know eventually those elbows are going to start coming back in your direction. And there was one point, Snodgrass got fouled, and Carroll just tried to kick the guy. He just tried to trip him up. Luckily, he missed, because if he didn't, that's a booking. And Snodgrass, he's always been one for wild tackles, but I've never seen him lose his temper before. So today was the first time I've seen him really get this screw turned on. But Arnautovic, the worst thing you can do to someone that thrives on this type of thing is wind him up. It would be like us winding up Troy Deeney. You just don't do it because you know, fine, he's going to have the last laugh at you. Only once have we seen Arnautovic lose it at West Ham when getting wound up, and that was Southampton away when he elbowed the geezer. At no other point have we seen him do that. He's always managed to control it and use it against him. All they had to do was when we played Burnley at home and Arnautovic scored that goal, he walked up to their defender, didn't he, and stuck his tongue out as if, go, yeah, you're going to wind me up, that's what I'm going to do to you. Brighton made a mistake winding Arnautovic up today, I think, and it was just, he was frustrated in the first half, but he's probably frustrated that Andy Carroll's in his space. He probably wanted Andy Carroll to bugger off down the pitch somewhere, and that's probably the one advantage of bringing Perez on. Perez does drop off and lets Arnautovic be the main guy up front a little bit, and so I get what Gonzo's saying about can't play Carroll up front. I think maybe actually you need someone that's willing to play the number 10 role up front with Arnautovic. Let Arnautovic be your number 9, the one that's in the middle of the 18-yard the whole time. Where he wants to go, he goes. But I feel like when Carroll's up there, Carroll tends to stand. Actually, I'm going to stand where I want. And Arnautovic looks at him thinking like, nah, I stand where I want. And you've got these two big lads, big egos up there, not really working together, working for themselves, and it doesn't work. So much as we slag off Perez, maybe Arnautovic prefers playing with Perez. Maybe Arnautovic does say to Pellegrini, I like working with him because he moves, drags a defender out of the way, and I get all this space to myself. We don't know. But the biggest credit has to go to the 2 substitutions that come on, not the one that came on at halftime, but the other 2, because they changed the game magnificently. Gonzo, can I get your final thoughts, please, and your man of match for West Ham tonight?
Yeah, just not really. No, final thoughts. I'm looking forward to seeing how he rolls the dice at transfer window. Looking forward to seeing who can come back. We've got problems in central defence. We've got problems in central midfield. I do think we have strikers. And you talk about Arnautovic, like you just said there. I do believe Lanzini is that guy. And we saw that under David Moyes. I think they play wonderfully well together. I think then you'll see some really good stuff. If we could put out a team that had Anderson on one side, Antonio on the other, and then Lanzini and Arnautovic up front, then you'd be seeing some very, very different football, and probably the football that Pellegrini wants to play. I just wouldn't be surprised if after today there's some people that and some combinations that he doesn't try again. As I say, particularly in those areas and particularly up front as well. Man of the match, it's Antonio or Noble. I'm gonna go for Noble just because I think he was a bit more central, a little bit more involved. But it doesn't mean Antonio doesn't deserve loads of credit. We'll give it to Mark Noble because he got hold of one area of the pitch that we really needed to, and he did change the game.
Charlie, what about yourself? Can I get your final thoughts and your massive accolade of hammer of the match, please?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a missed opportunity, just as Burnley is, and I think if we're a team who wants to finish 7th or best of the rest, as it were, at the end of the season, these are the sort of games where we need to step to the team and actually put them to the sword. And it's something that we failed to do. And today's almost more frustrating because we did do it eventually. And yet we had 70 minutes before that, however long it was, 65, where we just didn't, where we just sort of walked about and passed incredibly slowly. And when we pass that slowly, nothing's ever going to come of it. But yeah, man of the match for me has to go to Mark Noble just because he was involved in both the goals and he was what we were missing. We were missing that collected nature in the centre of the park, the nice passing, the ability to pick out a man to then go on and do something. It's that thing you said about Lanzini time and time again, create for the creator. That's what he did. He stepped up, he found Antonio in the right position, who then went on and created the goal. And I think that's what we were needing and missing the rest of the game, someone to actually take it by the scruff of the neck and do something with it.
I'm gonna scrape the barrel here a little bit. I think there's a couple of positives come from tonight's results. One, I think this is like a sense of realism for everybody. The fans, we all got jubilant, 1-4 in a row. Hey, lost to Watford, okay, but then we beat Southampton when we probably shouldn't have, but weren't expected to. So everybody went back up onto cloud 9 a little bit, and it was all giddy and it was fun. But I think this little slap of reality for us all is probably a good thing. Manages expectations a little bit. So if we do finish 10th come the end of the season, it's still a good season for your first season under a new manager. And it's also a sense of reality for the boardroom heading into the January transfer window. I'd almost be scared if we'd won the Burnley game and got a point tonight or whatever, and we're sitting 7, the board would be looking at Pellegrini and going, you don't need money. Look at you. You're 7th in the table. What more can you want? 50 million is not going to get you 6, so you are in the best place possible. This is almost like performance-wise, Pellegrini's going to be able to go into Sullivan and look him in the eye and say, that team is not good enough. You've got players in there I need rid of, and there's players out there I need to bring in. If you want to see better football, I need to change. So that's one positive. Whether that happens or not is what me and Gonzo will debate on Cup of Tea. But Gonzo clearly thinks it will. I'm not too sure, so we'll discuss that in another show. The second one is Birmingham is now our most important game of the season. It's always been the most important game of the season for me and Gonzo if you tune into this channel a lot. It's now got to be the most important game of the season for Pellegrini. If we had won tonight and we were sitting 7th, he'd almost forgive him if he thought, actually, I'm going to go for 7th in the league this year. I'm going to go for it. I just think tonight it's a little bit of a reminder that we're not quite there yet. And if we do get there, it's going to be one hell of a battle. But the cup is probably actually, I don't want to say easier, but with a little bit of luck in the draws, etc., maybe it is easier. Maybe it is more realistic than finishing 7th and stuff like that, because you've got less competition. It's in your own hands continuously. It's in your own destiny. We've got a home game against a championship club. Yes, they are a good championship club, but it's still a championship club. And Pellegrini, as I've said it on the preview and I said it on the build-up show, Gonzo, Pellegrini said he's going to install a big club mentality. Well, a big club will dispatch of Birmingham on Saturday. That's what they will do. We did not see that big club mentality tonight. We've seen it from the 60th minute onwards when we decided to 2-0 down. We decided, actually, we're going to come back from this. We're going to show the character and the determination you never seen at Burnley. We're going to show that. So, granted, yes, we saw a glimpse of it. But Saturday now is the most important game of our season for me. I know I'm speaking on behalf of Gonzo as well, because if you tune into this is all we want, a cup run. Saturday now takes priority over the next league game. Our next league game is Bournemouth away, or is Arsenal at home, sorry. It's Arsenal at home. Birmingham is priority. I tweeted out earlier today that Saturday took priority over tonight, because the reason I did that is in case we won tonight. And I said, well, I care more about Saturday, and people go, well, you're only saying that because you won, etc. But no, Saturday's always been priority, and I think tonight now might just push Pellegrini that way a little bit. Scraping the barrel, no. I'm just going to agree with these two. Man of match, it's got to be our captain. He had a massive addition today, got dropped. Captain got dropped. A poor performance at Burnley. Pellegrini put him on and said, well, go get your space back. Well, the next league game comes around, Arnautovic's back in that starting 11. It's simple as that, really. Well done, skipper. It just shows maybe that he needs a bit of Zabaleta treatment. Play one, miss one or something. I don't know. Look after him a little bit more. Maybe his legs aren't gone, but maybe they're catching up with him, as it would if you've been playing week in, week out in Premier League since you've been a teenager. It does catch up. Look at Rooney, Owen, etc. They all tell you that you get burnout, essentially. It'll happen to Harry Kane in 8 years' time, mark my words. But anyway, that's been Charlie, that's been Gonzo, I've been Joe, been Hamish Chat. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new around here. Again, Happy New Year to everybody. Myself and Gonzo will be doing a cup of tea. We've also got the Birmingham preview tomorrow night on this channel, so join us for that as well. Catch you in a bit.